Hey guys, so let's quickly take a look at the subunit vaccine. Now, what is a subunit vaccine? The subunit vaccine is a vaccine that is made using fragments or parts. So it is made using parts or fragments of the pathogen. Okay, so you pick out a particular part from the pathogen and you make the vaccine that can trigger an immune response. Okay, so how do you do that? You do that in two ways. The first way you can do that is isolating the protein. So you isolate the specific protein. So let's assume that this is the pathogen, right? You isolate the protein on the surface of the pathogen and present that as its own antigen that can trigger an immune response. Okay, I'll reiterate. Isolating the protein means that you look at the pathogen, right? You isolate, you take out a part of the antigen on the surface and use that to trigger an immune response. Use that as its own antigen. So when you give it to someone, you are trying to trigger their immune response. So what you're doing is using a part, just a part, to trigger an immune response. So that's the first way. The second way is through genetic engineering. Okay, we can also call that recombinant vaccine. Genetic engineering. Recombinant. Okay, so let me explain that. Now, in this process, what they do is that they look for the pathogen. So let's assume that this is the pathogen that is causing the disease, right? So they get into the pathogen, they break the nucleus, and they reach the DNA. So when they get to the DNA, what they do is that, let's assume this is the DNA inside here, okay? What they do is that they isolate a part. They isolate that part that codes for the protein that you want to use for the vaccine. So the protein that you want to use, the protein that you want to use for the vaccine, they get to the DNA and they look out for that particular segment that codes for that particular protein and they pick it out. Okay, now they pick it out and they insert it into another virus. Okay, it can be inserted into a virus or a cell culture. Okay, so this uses virus or cell culture. When it is inserted into a new virus, what happens is that when this virus replicates, virus normally replicates. When this virus replicates or reproduce, they will be able to produce that antigen. The same thing happens. So when virus replicates, they produce the antigen that can be used as a vaccine. When cell culture metabolize, they produce the antigen that can be used as the vaccine. So this is just how the subunit vaccines are made.